Though many believe the Cowboys need to prioritize one technique in the upcoming NFL draft, Dallas could also benefit from improving at the under-tackle position as well. Miami's Gerald Willis is a player that has been mocked to the Cowboys in round 2 often, and he could fit the bill of an impactful 3 technique for Dallas. With Willis, the highs are high but the lows are low, leaving you to yearn for more consistency for this clearly talented player. Still, Willis' abilities make him an intriguing prospect who is looking to find his place in this loaded defensive tackle class. The player Gerald Willis fit the persona of Miami's defense to a T. He is an explosive, high-energy player who is at his best attacking gaps and avoiding having to rely on his technique. His get-off and first step are impressive, but his sloppiness can overshadow the flashes at times. Willis tallied 59 total tackles, 18 for loss, and 4 sacks in 2018, absolutely ridiculous production for a player who sat out the entire 2017 season. As indicated by his overall tackle numbers, Willis always seems to find himself around the ball. A relentless player with a high motor, Gerald Willis seems to check all of the athleticism, effort, and nastiness boxes on tape. He possesses very impressive quickness for a player of his size, and displays a more complete variety of pass rush moves than previously discussed defensive tackles in this draft class. The issues he has as a player stem more from a consistent issue in his pad level. He tends to come off the ball too high at times, allowing blockers into his frame. When he comes off the ball at his best, utilizing strong hands and leverage, he looks like one of the better day 2 prospects in this draft class. It just doesn't happen often enough to project his ceiling at the next level. I'm very interested to see his combine performance in March, however, as it could skyrocket him up these national draft boards. The fit getting Gerald Willis to the Cowboys could do wonders for him as a player. Working with the defensive coaching the Cowboys have on staff, specifically defensive coordinator Rod Marinelli, could greatly help Willis fine-tune his game and maximize his potential. With Willis, the flashes are there, with a massive frame and smooth feet making him look the part of an NFL defensive tackle. But too often he gets sloppy in his play, or seems to let his nastiness, energy, get the best of him. The Cowboys have proven to have excellent coaching on their defensive line, and a system which could help Willis find his ceiling. Tyler Jomsland, the spokesman review name, James Booby Williams School, Washington State Conference, Pac-12 position, running back class, RS Junior Jersey, No. 32 recruitment rating, 3-star HT, 5 feet 11 inches WT, 195 DOB, May 17, 1996. Before we get into the player, you should really get to know James Williams' story and everything he's had to overcome and accomplish in order to get to this point in his career. After all, learning the character of a prospect is part of the evaluation process as well. Williams has the kind of backstory, for instance, that makes you want to root for him all the more and even makes watching his film a little more enjoyable. But don't take my word for it, watch his highlights for yourself and see what you think. Highlights: James Williams, Washington State running back. If you watched his backstory or any of his game film, then his resiliency is something that should have stuck out to you. He's not someone who is going to give up whether it's on or off the football field, and it's one of the things that make him such an intriguing prospect. He never gives up on a play and is constantly spinning, cutting, and churning his feet for extra yards. Williams brings more to the table than just his resiliency though. He shows good decisiveness and vision as a runner on film, especially in those big boy, goal line, short yardage situations. He has outstanding footwork, maybe the best of any RB in this draft class. He also plays with really good contact balance for a back his size. He's not a tackle breaker by any means, but he's able to absorb some pretty good shots and still maintain his feet. No need to worry about his ball security either. He's only had 3 fumbles and 525 career touches. The best thing about Williams' skill set is probably his receiving ability. He's had 270 catch seasons in his collegiate career, which is almost unheard of for a RB. He naturally catches the ball out of backfield on swing passes, screens, and middle releases for checkdowns. He has the ability to adjust to passes thrown outside his frame and has shown the ability to consistently high-point overthrown balls. He also has surprising leaping ability for a back his size. Cons: James Williams' long speed appears to be pretty solid, but I'd be surprised if he runs faster than a 4.5 40-yard dash. His lack of straight-line speed kind of limits his explosiveness, but his superb footwork and light feet still helps him pick up some chunky yardage. Williams' size might be his biggest negative. This will likely keep him from being an every-down back in the NFL and force him into the role of a change-of-pace, third-down RB. His size also limits him in pass protection. He shows the technique and willingness on tape in pass protection, but his small stature causes him to get overpowered at times. Although he is able to absorb a lot of big hits while maintaining his balance, if a defender does get their hands on him, he goes down pretty easily. He just doesn't have the size or strength to throw off defenders or drive through contact. He's not frail by any means and has a well-muscled frame, but it's probably already maxed out. Cowboys fit. If the Dallas Cowboys are looking for a running back with the same kind of skill set as New England Patriots RB James White, then James Williams is their man. Williams is the kind of new age flex RB coming into prominence in the league. The type of player who can not only contribute as a runner, but catch the ball out of the backfield or be split out like a receiver in the passing game as well. Although I think James White is the best comparison for James Williams, I actually believe the latter could end up being the better of the two. His superior footwork and light feet will make him better as both a runner and as receiver in the passing game. But it's his competitive toughness and contact balance that I believe really sets him apart. Overall, James Williams is an electric player who would fit in real well with the Dallas Cowboys. He could not only serve as a nice complement, change of pace back to Ezekiel Elliott, but also contribute as a slot receiver after developing a better route tree and refining his route running. His versatility could make him an interesting day 3 prospect, but I could see him improve his draft stock at the NFL Combine and end up slipping into the late day 2 territory. What do you think of James Williams as a draft target for the Dallas Cowboys? We are officially in the off-season, which means it is draft and free agency season. Over the next few weeks, there will be a lot of talk and preparation for the start of the NFL's free agency period starting March 13th. Probably the thing that gets people more excited is the NFL draft. Google mock drafts, and you will find countless reports and attempts at analyzing what could happen when the 32 teams go on the clock come April. With the Dallas Cowboys not owning a first-round pick in this year's draft, the projections get even more complicated as they'll have to see 57 players go off the board before making their choice at number 58. So much can change between now and then that attempting to figure out who the Cowboys will take is a really difficult exercise. What I want to do is look at who has recently been mocked to the Dallas Cowboys. Charles Omenihu, DT, Texas in E. Sterling's most recent 4-round mock draft, he sent the Dallas Cowboys some interior defensive line help. As shown by the Cowboys' loss to the Los Angeles Rams in the divisional round of the playoffs, they could use the help. As a senior, Omenihu recorded 9.5 sacks and 18 tackles for loss to go with his 45 total tackles. To be that productive along the interior in the pass-happy, spread-heavy Big 12 is a huge accomplishment. He looks to have the size that Dallas could slot in as a 3-technique defensive tackle at 6'6", 275. His length would cause a lot of problems on the interior. Gerald Willis, DT, Miami. In this 7-round mock draft simulation by Draft Tech, they find the Dallas Cowboys an interior defensive lineman as well in the form of Gerald Willis of Miami. Here's what their Dallas Cowboys analyst, Long Ball, had to say about Willis. Gerald Willis displayed flashes at Miami: explosive first-step, utilization of hands and power in swim move, relentless pursuit with straight-line speed to chase plays down from the backside, and physicality in his tackling technique. Areas that need improvement: staying low to play with leverage, consistency with hand placement, and mental recognition of blocking. Off-the-field issues led to a transfer from Florida, and he took a year off in 2017 while at Miami. I don't know if this will red flag him on the Dallas board, but if it does, I know the Cowboys visited with DTs DeMarcus Christmas, Florida State, and Greg Gaines, Washington, during the Senior Bowl. Long Ball draft tech Willis was only a one-year player at Miami, but came up with a nice senior season where he racked up 4 sacks and 18 tackles for loss. He's likely a raw player that needs some refining, but with Rod Marinelli around he could bring out the best in a player that has the size to be disruptive on the interior. Renell Wren, DT, Arizona State. Dane Brugler over at The Athletic is also thinking interior defensive line for the Cowboys as he projected Renell Wren from Arizona State University to your Dallas Cowboys. Here's what he had to say: with David Irving an afterthought and Maliek Collins entering the final year of his deal, defensive tackle is likely to be high on Dallas' early round wish list. Dane Brugler, The Athletic. Like Omenihu, Wren is big at 6'6" but comes in more than 20 pounds heavier than the Texas product. His size makes him more of a run-stuffing one-technique defensive tackle spot for the Cowboys and should help their interior rush and run defense, which would make life easier on Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch at the second level. He wasn't nearly as productive as Omenihu, as he never had more than 1.5 sacks in a season at Arizona State. Caden Smith, Stanford. Luke Easterling of the Draft Wire put together a 3-round mock draft back in the middle of January and sent the Dallas Cowboys a tight end in the form of Stanford product Caden Smith. Smith caught 47 passes for 637 yards and 2 touchdowns in 2018 after catching 23 passes for 414 yards and 5 touchdowns in 2017. He averaged 15 yards per reception in his 2-year career at Stanford. Those numbers on the surface may not look very impressive, but remember that Stanford is one of the more run-heavy teams in college football, which means fewer opportunities for their pass catchers. Like former teammate now Dallas Cowboys tight end Dalton Schultz, Smith will come into the NFL with a more well-rounded game than many other college tight ends. He would have been asked to be a blocker pretty regularly in Stanford's offense, which gives him a leg up in adapting to the NFL game. Tight end is going to be a popular selection for those doing mock drafts for the Dallas Cowboys, as it's a position that has some potential in Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz, but is by no means solidified. It's an excellent draft to take a tight end, as there are usable options as late as the 5th round in this year's group. Jace Sternberger, Texas A. This time it's Aggie tight end Jace Sternberger being mocked to the Dallas Cowboys at 58 by Chad Reuter of NFL.com. Sternberger is becoming one of my favorite tight ends in the class. Sternberger looks strong and able to run good routes, especially downfield. He is a big play threat that averaged 17.3 yards per reception this season for the Aggies. He caught 48 passes for 832 yards and 10 touchdowns. Reuter references the absence of Jason Witten in the Cowboys' passing game, and that certainly made a difference. However, we saw how much could be improved with the addition of Amari Cooper. Reuter's 3-round mock provides another pass-catching option in the 3rd round to the Cowboys, though this one is less exciting. O'Shane Ximines, Old Dominion. In his 2-round mock draft released earlier in the week, Ben Standig of NBC Sports had the Cowboys selecting defensive end O'Shane Ximines from Old Dominion. Standig cites the looming free agency of DeMarcus Lawrence and likely departure of David Irving, though we know Irving to be more of a tackle, as his reasons for using the 58th pick in the draft on an edge rusher. We know that DeMarcus Lawrence is going to be back. Combine that with the emergence of Randy Gregory in the 2019 season, and it makes defensive end much less of a priority in the draft. It's an interesting use of the Cowboys' first selection in the 2019 NFL Draft, with DeMarcus Lawrence set to return and the emergence of Randy Gregory. Jonathan Abram, Mississippi State over at SB Nation. They continued the trend with the Dallas Cowboys selecting defense first in the second round in the form of Mississippi State safety Jonathan Abram. Here's what Dan Catter had to say about the player. The Cowboys might not have a first-round pick this year, but Abram has the traits of one. He loves to crack receivers coming over the middle and is aggressive coming up to play the run. Dan Catter, SB Nation. Safety is certainly an area where the Dallas Cowboys could improve. Despite some playmaking and otherwise solid play from Jeff Heath, they need to look to upgrade that position. They'll have a chance to do so in free agency with names like Earl Thomas, Landon Collins, Trey Boston, and Tyrann Mathieu available, but if they don't go that route, Abram sounds like a good fit to play with Xavier Woods, who is more the free safety type. With this NFL draft being so loaded with defensive linemen and tight end, it's very likely that is where the Cowboys will look to allocate one of their first couple of picks. Depending on what happens with wide receiver Cole Beasley in free agency, you could see wide receiver move up the position needs rankings. If they're able to get him to return, it would become unlikely that the Cowboys would use pick number 58 on a wide receiver. We still have nearly 3 months till the NFL draft, and it's already shaping up to be another nice April for the Dallas Cowboys. The invite list of all 338 participants who will be competing in the 2019 NFL Combine dropped yesterday. I was curious, so I scoured over every single invitee and was really surprised at some of the names not listed. Not everybody can compete in the underwear Olympics, of course, but there always seems to be a few shockers gets burned in the process. Today I want to share with you 5 players in particular who I not only think got snubbed, but could be of interest to the Dallas Cowboys. Fortunately, Dallas will now have to wait to visit with these prospects at their pro day workouts or as an official pre-draft visitor. But that's just the way things work out sometimes. Let's take a look at 5 combine snubs I think the Cowboys could be interested in. RB, Divino Zigbo, Nebraska. The biggest shocker among these 2019 NFL Combine snubs has to be running back Divino Zigbo out of Nebraska. I personally have him as a fringe Day 2 RB in this year's draft class. For his size, 6 feet, 0 inches, 230, I'm really intrigued with the fluidity and vision in which he plays. You would think he is mostly a downhill power runner based on his size alone, but he has some surprising athletic ability and footwork for such a thick player. I was really looking forward to seeing him compete in the agility drills to see how he stacks up with some of these smaller, shifting backs. RB, Ryan Anderson, North Dakota State. If you follow my work then you already know I'm a fan Ryan Anderson and like the skill set he would bring to the Dallas Cowboys. I really think he could provide the lightning to Ezekiel Elliott's thunder in the Cowboys' backfield, which makes not getting to see him compete in the 2019 NFL Combine all the more disappointing. Since his pro day and private workouts will not be televised, the Combine were really only chance to see him in action in these agility drills firsthand. Like Zigbo, I was really forward to seeing how he stacked up with the RBs in this year's draft class. WR, Penny Hart, Georgia State. After the show he put on at this year's Senior Bowl, I was really surprised not to see Penny Hart not receive an invitation to the Combine. He got the attention of a lot of people throughout the week in mobile and didn't disappoint in the game either. His crisp, elusive roots, soft hands, speed, and competitiveness were on full display, and I thought it would have made him a no-brainer to participate in the Combine. I was wrong, but this is a guy Dallas Cowboys could target as a Cole Beasley replacement despite getting snubbed. WR, Preston Williams, Colorado State. We've known for a few days now, Preston Williams would not be competing in the 2019 NFL Combine, but it's still disappointing nonetheless. He is one of the more physically gifted wide receivers in the entire draft class, but doesn't really have the production to back it up. Based on his talent alone, he is probably a fringe first-round player, but his red flags and lack of production in college will likely cause him to slide in the draft. Still, it would have been fun to see how he competes with the other top wideouts at the Combine. LB, Khalil Hodge, Buffalo. In a draft class without a lot of linebacker talent, it was really surprising not to see Khalil Hodge not receive an invitation to participate in the NFL Combine. I have him in the top 10 amongst the LBs this year so far, but I thought he could climb even higher with a good showing at the Combine. He's been amongst the nation's leading tacklers these past couple years, which makes it all the confusing he got left out. With the Cowboys, he could be someone to take over for Damian Wilson and at the worst provide some much-needed depth.